we really gotta stop meeting like this. Once again, I know it's been about, a month since I uploaded my last video, which was about the Batman. But in my defense, okay, there really weren't that many things that were releasing in March that I really wanted to talk about. Plus, not to mention, it's like last week I was all the way out on a trip to DC, so it's not like I could really do much. I mean, what else was I going to talk about? Morbius with Jared Leto? Yeah, right. To quote a very angry video game nerd, I would rather have a buffalo take a diarrhea dump in my ear than watch Morbius with Jared Leto. That's how much I would rather do anything but watch Morbius. But thankfully enough, a project did end up releasing that I am excited for and I do want to talk about. That movie, of course, being the sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog, which is of course called Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, when I first saw the first Sonic movie, which was in the before times, I was honestly shocked the fact that it was actually pretty good. Obviously, of course, the main point of contention came from the original design of Sonic and the fact that they delayed the movie by 3 months in order to properly redesign him, with the process being headed up by Sonic artist Tyson Hesse. The final result was a very fun movie that definitely seemed to respect the source material while also trying to carve out its own story and do its own unique thing. True, the plot did seem a little bit repetitive of a couple of other stories that have been told. I mean, Alvin and the Chipmunks, Hop. I mean, it's kind of obvious some of its other counterparts, but it definitely is a lot better than those counterparts because they make sure to keep the focus on the title character. It's focusing on Sonic the Hedgehog. And all the people involved, from Ben Schwartz as the voice of Sonic to Jim Carrey, obviously are giving it their all. So, with the announcement of the fact that there was a sequel in development, I was really excited because they teased the notion of a sequel by having both Eggman stuck on the Mushroom Planet at the end of the last movie and by having Tails show up in a mid-credit scene. And now they're fulfilling on both of those promises by having both Robotnik and Tails return, and we also get the additional appearance of Knuckles the Echidna. But what's actually the story of the movie? Well, the plot of the film takes place several months after the events of the previous Sonic the Hedgehog film. Robotnik has been defeated, and Sonic is enjoying his new life living with Tom and Maddie Wachowski, aka the Donut Lord and the Pretzel Lady, played by James Marsden and Tika Sumpter, respectively. Sonic really wants to be a hero. He wants to use his powers, and he wants to help. However, he's not particularly good at it, and even Donut Lord's like, hey, listen, I know you want to be a hero, but there will be a time when your powers are needed. And so eventually, both Tom and Maddie head out to Hawaii to attend Maddie's sister Rachel's wedding, who's played by Natasha Rothwell. And meanwhile, Sonic's left home alone. But then things end up changing when he discovers that Robotnik, who's once again played by Jim Carrey, is back, and not only that, but he has brought a new ally in the form of Knuckles the Echidna, played by Idris Elba. However, Sonic isn't entirely alone, as he's teamed up with the lovable Miles Tails Prowler, who is played by Colleen O'Shaughnessy. Which I think is really cool, the fact that, that they actually brought in Colleen, because she's actually been the voice actress of Tails since the Sonic Boom era of stuff. So from 2015 onwards, she's been the voice of Tails. And I just think the fact that that was really cool that they brought her in for this. But anyways, back to the story. So now, it's a race against time as Sonic and Tails must team up in order to stop Robotnik and Knuckles from locating the Master Emerald and potentially causing the end of all humanity. Now, very few sequels are able to surpass the original in terms of quality. The Godfather Part 2, The Empire Strikes Back, Terminator 2. These are all examples of sequels that are able to surpass the original. Sonic 2, I believe, is among those movies because, obviously, of course, the first movie was mainly about laying down the groundwork, establishing Sonic, his world, other things like that. This was mainly the baseline. However, the second movie here, this is where things get nuts, because this is where they begin to include more characters and more references from the games. Because obviously, of course, it does make sense. As previously mentioned, Colleen O'Shaughnessy comes back to portray the character of Tails, and the relationship and the chemistry between Tails and Sonic is on point. I love the relationship that they have with each other, and the fact that Tails was like, being born with two tails, I was kind of an outcast. But seeing as how you were the fastest being in the universe and you were also kind of an outcast too, you really inspired me. Like, that's actually a really nice connection that Sonic and Tails share with each other. And I think that's really cool. But obviously, of course, I have to talk about the big red elephant in the room, Knuckles, played by Idris Elba. And he is fantastic as Knuckles. Idris Elba is so good because he's so funny, because Sonic's funny because he's able to crack jokes and he's making wise of everything. Knuckles is funny because he takes everything so seriously, and he doesn't have much of a sense of humor. He just takes everything so serious. He has a code of honor as an echidna, and he very much seems like, he takes things he's kind of like the equivalent of Drax from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He's basically like Dave Bautista from the Guardians movies. And I think the fact that interpretation of Knuckles does make sense. However, they do attempt to make sure the fact that, well, yes, he does take things seriously and he is a bit naive. He's not stupid. He is a very commendable warrior and a legitimate threat against Sonic. Speaking of threats, Jim Carrey is great as ever as Robotnik. Obviously, of course, he's sporting a much more bald head and crazier mustache than the previous one. But he's still giving it his A game. He is giving it his all. Like, Jim Carrey is great as Robotnik. I really do hope the fact that he does come back for the third movie. And I really do hope the fact that they are able to properly convince him to come back for a third movie. Because he has stated that he might end up retiring from acting. Or at least take a break from it for a little bit. Obviously, that's understandable. I get the break. But I really hope he doesn't retire completely. Because I really want to see him come back for the third movie that they're obviously going to do. Especially with that mid-credit scene stinger. Not going to reveal specifics, but let's just say the fact that it involves a certain Sonic character from the early 2000s. That's about as much as I'm saying. But yeah, not only that, but the action sequences too, they were just fantastic. Like, it really seems like a huge elevation of where the first movie was previously from. But with the good, there must also come the bad. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't hate the human characters. Like James Marsden, Tika Sumpter, Natasha Rothwell, and even newcomer Shemar, they're obviously doing a good job with the material that they're given. But the thing is, it very much feels like the fact that, the stuff with the humans is mainly a side quest. It's supposed to like the main stuff with Sonic and Tails trying to find the Master Emerald. But then eventually, every now and again, we'll cut back to them in Hawaii. And then, of course, there's a good portion of the movie where Sonic is captured. And then they mainly focus on, I'm trying to think of her name. Tika Sumpter's character, Maddie and Rachel. It mainly focuses on them for a little bit, just trying to figure out a way how to get Sonic out. And there's also a good portion of it that focuses on Rachel and her, her soon-to-be husband, played by Shemar. It's just not really interested in any of this. Like, you don't come for Sonic the Hedgehog to see these human characters and their interpersonal drama or whatever. No, you come to see Sonic the Hedgehog team up with Tails and Knuckles and have them beat up Robotnik. It's simple. And the other thing that I want to mention too is the runtime. The previous movie was around an hour and 38 minutes, which I feel like is an acceptable length for a film like that. This is 2 hours and 2 minutes, and it definitely feels like the fact that there are some areas that could have been cut. Like, there are some areas that clearly could have been trimmed down. Like, there's an entire sequence where, I'm forgetting where exactly Sonic and Tails are, but they basically end up, the circumstances lead them to having them compete in a dance-off, and I'm like, sure, it's fine and whatnot, but is this really necessary? It just feels like a repeat of the bar that we see from the first movie. Like, it just feels like that. Like, all over again. And plus, while a good majority of the jokes do land, like, they are really, this movie can be really, really funny, there is still those couple of lines that make me go, that really wasn't the best written line. Like there are some things about this movie that I'm like, that could have been a little bit better. But generally speaking, like, this movie was really fantastic and it was really, really fun. And not only that, but it ended up beating the previous Sonic movie for the highest domestic opening for a video game movie at $71 million. It beat the previous movie, and to think the fact that it was Sonic the Hedgehog that helped to beat the video game movie curse that started because of Mario, it's crazy. Like, the fact that Sonic the Hedgehog 2, that we've gotten 2 of these movies and both of them have been really good, says something. And now I'm really intrigued to see what the heck they're going to be doing with that Illumination animated Mario movie with Chris Pratt. Yeah, that's also happening this year. Bet you forgot about that, didn't you? Well, it's not for a lack of trying. But yeah, overall speaking, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 feel like is a huge improvement on the first Sonic. All the performances from everybody around are pretty solid. Love the fact that they're able to incorporate more elements and stuff from the games. The fact that it felt like a kind of a mix between both Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 instead of just Sonic 2, which was kind of what we were all expecting, but hey. The action sequences, of course, were great also. But I do overall feel like the fact that the movie could have been a little bit shorter and there were some things that could have been edited out. But yeah, overall, I'm going to give Sonic the Hedgehog 2 a 7.5 out of 10. It is really good. I do highly recommend the fact that if you are a fan of Sonic, I do recommend you check this out. If you don't know anything about Sonic or his world, then this probably isn't going to sway you into liking Sonic. But hey, this movie's not meant for everybody. But yeah, that about does it for this video. I do have another video planned to come out later this week because, there's nothing really releasing this week, at least to my knowledge. So I'm going to actually do something the fact that I haven't done I think, since I started this channel. I actually want to do a spotlight of a comic book series. Yeah, these things that I have behind me, comics. Yeah, I might talk about those. Which one am I going to talk about? Okay, yeah, that's about all I got for that. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all the other stuff that YouTube does because I want to make sure the fact that you guys actually get my videos on time because YouTube has this weird thing about unsubscribing people and not letting them know that videos have gone up. Yeah, the system's kind of messed up, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, stay gold.